What's up, Lantern fans? It's the Emerald Enthusiast, the co-host of the Emerald Echo podcast, here with a look at the McFarlane DC Multiverse figure of Green Lantern, Kyle Rayner. This is the first Kyle Rayner figure that McFarlane produced. It's part of the Atrocitus Collect and Connect wave, so let's go ahead and take a look at the package details. On the top, we get a partial window, and we see that this figure is based on Kyle's Blackest night appearance. And on the bottom, we get some product information. On one side of the packaging, it says Green Lantern Kyle Rayner, Blackest night. And on the opposite side of the packaging, we get a partial window, and it says Green Lantern Kyle Rayner. On the back bottom, we get headshots of the other figures available in this wave. On the top, we see a diagram of how to put the Collect and Connect figure together and some artwork of Atrocitus. Overall, I think this is an excellent figure, although I don't like its placement within the packaging. As you can see, the figure is off to the side with the accessories and the Collect and Connect piece given too much space here. I think that the figure should be in the middle and the other pieces should be placed around it to make sure that the figure is front and center. I feel that the Collect and Connect pieces could go under or behind the figures so that the figures could still look good mint in packaging. But with all that said, now I think it's time to bust this figure out of the package and see what's inside. Let's have a look at accessories here, and we'll start with the personal power battery. This is a lighter shade of green than I would have liked for this battery, but there's lots of good sculpting here, and it is accurate to Kyle's specific battery, and that's always what I look for. There is plenty of detail on this on all sides and the handle as well. He also comes with this massive sword construct, and I don't know if there's an actual name for this type of sword. It reminds me of a sci-fi sword or an anime sword. It is somewhat pliable and not very difficult to get into the figure's hand. The figure also comes with the basic DC Comics logo peg base. And here's a look at the front of the trading card. The back of the card features a brief bio of Kyle Rayner. If you'd like to read this, go ahead and pause the video and do so now. And here we see Kyle Rayner out of the package and ready to rumble. I do have a couple of criticisms of this figure, but I was still overjoyed when McFarlane finally put out a Kyle Rayner figure for me to add to my collection. I actually bought 3 of these, one to keep mint on card, one for this review, and one eventually for autographs at Comic-Con. So with that being said, let's take a look at the loose details now. Let's take a look at the lower body now. And I'm not exactly sure why they used such a light shade of green for Kyle. This really doesn't match any of the coloring from the time period. I do like the sculpting on the boots. As you can see, there's plenty of good sculpting, including the top of the boots. I still have mixed feelings on this texturing for the black sections. I usually think of those as being more smooth, but there is good musculature on this figure. And even though I wish these black sections were smooth, they do reflect the light well. You can see that there's plenty of definition, both on the front and the back of these sections. And this figure has the separate pliable hip piece. In terms of articulation, we get a midfoot hinge. Plenty of pivoting here on the ball joint. You can get that joint to go back this far if you want to put Kyle into a flying pose. I thought that the top of the boots might pivot, but they do not. However, these double-jointed knees will allow you to get him into a deep running pose. In terms of hip articulation, you can get the figure to kick forward this far. That pliable hip section limits the articulation a little. You can get the legs to go out this far to the side, which is admirable. It's not a full split, but I think it's acceptable. Although I wouldn't leave him in any kind of deep pose because I feel like you're stressing out that hip area. But you can get the figure to step back considerably. Let's have a look at the torso now. And this is the costume that Kyle wore between the time that he was Parallax and the time that he was the White Lantern. Again, I feel like the shade of green is too light, but nonetheless, there's plenty of good sculpting here. You can see plenty of good definition here on the back. There's a little bit of a gap between the upper and lower parts of the torso. The Green Lantern symbol has been executed very well. The lines are very exact, and you can see that it's very reflective when I turn it and it catches the light. In terms of articulation, you can get the figure to pivot back and forth at the waist, although the green sections no longer line up when you do that. You can get the figure to rock back this far, so that's pretty good for a flying pose. He doesn't crunch forward very well, though, I have to say that. And there is swiveling in the upper torso, which is helpful if you want to get him into a good ring-slinging pose. The arms have been sculpted very well. They're not too big because Kyle is rarely portrayed as this huge buff guy. So I like the way that those have been sculpted. He's got the butterfly joints in the shoulders, and I'll show you the articulation in just a minute. But these complement the torso well, and this is the overall type of body composition that you see Kyle have in the comics. In terms of arm articulation, he has the double jointed elbows, and you can get his arm to fold in half. So that's very impressive. The wrists on mine are very tight. I can get them to circle around, but I really can't get them to move back and forth. Now, that may be something that is specific to my figure. He also has the bicep swivel, and you can get the shoulders to go up this far, so that's really impressive. Not all McFarlane figures have that much articulation in the shoulders, so I certainly appreciate that. This figure looks really good when you put his arms out and back in the big power pose, as you can see here. And he also has 360 degrees of rotation in the shoulder, so again, good work by McFarlane. Here's a close-up of the ring, and I certainly think that this ring is better than the one on the Changing the Guard Kyle figure. The paint applications are better. There's much better sculpting. You can actually see the sides of the ring, so it looks like it goes around his finger. It's still a little undersized, and I wish I could see the Green Lantern logo, but overall, this isn't a bad effort. This head sculpt is just magnificent. Of course, it features my favorite mask in all of comics, and that is Kyle's crab mask. The hair has been sculpted extremely well. He even has a couple of strands of hair that fall over the mask, and that gives this head sculpt an element of realism. The intricate sculpting on not only the hair, but the ears and the mouth is excellent. The only criticism that I have is that there's a slight shade difference between the skin tone on the neck and the head, but it's really not that noticeable. This head sculpt is fantastic. In terms of articulation, the head moves side to side freely. He doesn't look up as much as I would like him to, although he looks down well. And he also has plenty of great head tilting here. This is how I imagine Kyle looking when he's having conversations with Batman. So here's a look at the sword. I was able to slide this into the gripping hand very easily, and it doesn't feel like it's so heavy that it's something that's going to make the joints loosen up if you decide to pose the figure with this in his hand. Here's a look at the two Kyle Rayner figures that have been produced by McFarlane. And as I looked at these two figures for the first time side by side as I did this review, it really made me wish that McFarlane had done the white section on the back of the Changing the Guard figure like they did with the green section here on the Blackest Knight figure. I just really think that those contrasts of color make the figure look so much better. And if you're wondering about the Build-A-Figure piece, here it is as part of a fully assembled Atrocitus. If you'd like to know more, make sure to check out my Atrocitus review. I certainly hope you have enjoyed this review. If so, please like and subscribe. Stay tuned for some articulation shots, and also remember to catch me on the Multiverse Musings vidcast, available right here on YouTube. And I'll be back to the internet with more Green Lantern-related content soon. But until we meet again, this has been the Emerald Enthusiast, and thanks for watching.